Alright, so, how's it going? My name's Commander Elliot, and I had a crazy run on the new Everdark Tricephalos fight today, and I thought it'd be fun to kind of recap it, go through my thoughts, some thoughts about the game and the boss, and yeah, I get to show off this fun run that I had. So, that is me, the Ironeye, Sir McFreaky. Yes, I know, it's my favorite. It's the best name I could have possibly chosen. And I'm playing here with a Wilder and a Raider. So I've got a couple of notes that I kind of took while I was rewatching the run. It's not highly scripted or anything, but I had some points that I did want to touch on during the course of this game. So hopefully I can get through everything that I wanted to say, kind of on the fly in one take, but if not, I'm sure I can edit some stuff in and put some stuff on the screen, and it should be perfectly okay. So yeah, I decided to play Ironeye while I was fighting Everdark Tricephalos. I did have a couple of Recluse and Revenant runs that didn't go so great, so I decided to switch it up, play some Ironeye. I'm not a great Recluse player or a Revenant player. I was never a caster in base Elden Ring, so I feel like I just don't have enough experience really. But that's okay, because it's something I'm trying to get better at. So we start out at the carriage camp here, which is nice, because there is a stone sword key here, for those who don't know. So we'll go ahead and take out these initial kind of bunch of enemies, and then I'll grab the stone sword key from the carriage to my right here in just a second. Speaking of Everjails, naturally I am running the Everjail relic. I'll throw up my build on screen now, so you can see these are the relics I have. It's not even a great loadout, really, but it does get the job done. So we're going to take the stone sword key. The Raider has pinged this Everjail up here, and initially I wasn't very certain about going to do this one at level 1, or level 2 rather, practically the same thing, but yeah, I wasn't so sure about doing this early, but since it was here, we were so close, and we definitely weren't coming back here, I did kind of decide it would be best to go through and fight this one. So we're going to take on the Crucible Knight here, which is nice, because he's one of the Everjail bosses that gives 20k instead of 10k, which is a good starting boost to the runes, which is nice. Yeah, this does eventually, I think, end up being the right call to fight him here and now, but yeah, it's a little bit difficult. Let's talk about what I'm doing here. So recently I've kind of tried to adopt, when playing Ironeye, the shotgun strategy, which is kind of when you're up close. Ironeye has a unique strong attack where he fires 3 arrows at once. Now, these arrows do have some tracking out towards the sides from a distance, but if you're close enough, you can get them to track... Oh god, the double grab there is disgusting. Yeah, I forgot that happened. So yes, if you're close enough, you can actually get all 3 arrows to target onto the same enemy, and while your rate of fire is a bit slower, you are shooting 3 arrows at once, so it does do quite a bit of damage. Now, I am still kind of in the process of adopting this playstyle, but you know, so I don't do it very consistently or all the time, but I try to do it when I can, and I try to remember. So we get the 20k runes here, level up here, and then from here we're off to this church down here, this great church. Obviously, because I want some more stone sword keys for more Everjail buffs. So hopefully I start thinking at this point my teammates are on the same wavelength as me. I feel like that's one of the biggest kind of hurdles in Nightreign, is kind of learning how to communicate with the limited tools that you have, and hoping that your teammates understand you. Because obviously, being a game that is built around co-op, sticking together is quite important, and coordinating with your team is really the key to, not necessarily the key to success, because it is possible to succeed with a discoordinated team, but you know, it's much easier if you have a team that is coordinated. Now, I don't find a stone sword key in the back chest here, which kind of perplexes me. I feel like sometimes, I'm not sure if I'm crazy, but I feel like sometimes these churches don't spawn with stone sword keys, even though sometimes I've seen people get them from the top chests, which you'll see me check in a few minutes after we beat this Mausoleum Knight. Well, a few minutes is certainly an exaggeration, but I'm sure you get what I mean. I take this Venomous Claw, not for any particular reason, just because it's the only weapon I've got is my bow at the moment, so I may as well take it for the, you know, the passive. Why not? Sure, it's not going to hurt. So I'm going to run up here and check for the other stone sword key. My teammates, they are going to run off somewhere else. We'll see where they go in just a minute. They head for the Everjail, actually. That's right, yeah. So they both head for that Everjail there. I'm trying to find this stone sword key here. Now, I don't actually end up finding it up here, so I'm not too sure what the hard and fast rule is about stone sword key spawns. Whether I've just missed it somewhere here, it's in a different chest, or whether sometimes they just don't spawn at all. It is genuinely a little hard to tell. So hey, if there's a clarification on that anyone can offer, or some insight, please do let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Now, while these guys have gone ahead to the Everjail, I am actually going to stop and clear this church here downstairs. I know a lot of people start to skip these quite early, but I do find them to be relatively worth the time, just because they are so easy. Like, the Fire Monk is so free, and so is the Mausoleum Knight. Really, all of the Great Church bosses are quite free. So I don't see why people don't do them sometimes, especially just because, it's not that many runes, sure, but early on, it's a weapon, a blue weapon, or a decent passive, something like that. So I feel like they're always worth doing, just because they're so quick. So I'm going to take that Albinauric bow, and I'm going to move back over to where everyone else has headed to the Everjail. I'll catch up with them in just a minute. I am also running Knight of the Lord, you will notice, which I try to incorporate into an Ironeye build as often as I can, at least these days, because I think it is a fun mechanic, but it is kind of clunky, and I do kind of forget sometimes to, start switching weapons, because you just get so caught up in the fight. There's a lot to manage, but it is something also I'm trying to work on a bit more with my Ironeye gameplay as well. Now, I'm going to head up here to this fort, for another stone sword key. However, you will notice that my teammates do not follow me. They are still not on the same page quite at the moment, but that's okay, because again, this does kind of end up working out decently well. Especially later in the run. Goodness, there is some juice for my cup somewhere over here. You'll see it in a little while down the line. So we're going to get on into this fort here. Thankfully, it is the abductor version. I prefer the abductor version over anything else in the forts here. I get caught by this little hook. That's kind of embarrassing. I do prefer the abductor version because I find that enemies don't chase. They're too engaged with the abductor version if you choose to just run straight to the top for the stone sword key. Heartbow here is nice. I do like that. Yeah, so the abductor version does kind of stay occupied with the others down there. And also, on most characters, I just don't prefer to fight the Lord Sworn Captain. Less health, sure, but, he's got a shield and guard counters. It's just kind of annoying. I'm not a fan. Now, over the horizon there, you will notice that there is a crater that has spawned in this map, which I didn't clock until now. Oh, yes, so this is the part where they've gone ahead and actually started Castle on day 1. Now, there are pros and cons to doing Castle on day 1. I think, personally, it's normally better to do Castle on day 2, because by that time you're like level 10, even 11-ish, and you can be really quick in doing it so that it doesn't detract too often from your time on day 2. But, it's up to preference, and I think circumstantially it can be a better or worse decision. But I'm going to go ahead and join them down here since they're fighting the basement boss. Yeah, I think Castle can sometimes not even be worth doing at all, if you ask me. If you've got a good shifting earth, like you've got Rotting Woods or Nocleteo, and especially if it's a troll spawn at Castle, I feel like it is just not worth the time and investment, frankly. So we've got Black Assassin here. We're going to go ahead and take him out. I don't dodge this because I'm garbage at the game. There was another run where I got grabbed off of the riff from a Black Knife assassin that I had. It was literally, I think maybe the game before this, or the game before that. But I literally ran through that front gate and immediately got grabbed, and it was really funny. Go ahead, stance break this guy here. There we go. And here we get a Serpent Bow, which is really nice. Now, I know it's not exactly what we're looking for, but when it comes to playing Ironeye with your bows, there are basically 3 that you are looking for at any given point in the game. Those are the Serpent Bow for your poison damage, the Erdtree Bow for holy damage, and any bow that has Barrage on it. Because I think Barrage is probably the best skill when it comes to bows. Not that I use it super often, but it is, better than nothing if you have nothing else. So we've got the Serpent Bow off the rip, which is really, really nice, and that's going to carry us comfortably until we find something better. Go ahead and open the Talisman chest here. I take the Winged Sword Insignia, because I was unsure whether it worked on Ironeye or not. Spoiler alert, it does not, so this doesn't really do anything for me here, which is a bit of a shame, but you know what, it's fine. Sometimes you don't get any good talismans out of it anyway. So, farming the Crucible Knights is always good on day 1, in my honest opinion. If there's not much better to do on your routing and you've got Crucible Knights, you may as well just clear the place out, because they are worth a fortune when it comes to runes, so I do think it's decently worth it. So we'll go ahead and fight this guy here. Now, there are technically less enemies whenever you get a spawn on Castle for Crucible Knights, so it can be a little bit less worth if you've got something like a grafted sword, you know, but there are still plenty of Chomas around to kind of kill off, so you still get a decent attack buff in that situation. Now, you notice I am kind of stockpiling runes here, because I don't want to visit a Grace. I always tend to hold on to my runes for a while and then visit a Grace at the end of the day before a big boss or something like that. Oh, I get stuck in this corner here, and you can see I get some really good shots off with that shotgun technique with the R2. That's always really nice to see, even though being in that corner did give me a decent bit of anxiety. Now, this guy's going to drop a Godslayer's Greatsword, which I am actually going to drop and give to my teammates because they're both doing power stancing jump attack builds. I find dropping weapons for teammates to be incredibly beneficial. I think it works really, really well. And if you see something where it's like, oh, I could take this and it's okay, but there's something here that's going to be really good for my teammates, I am always a fan of doing that. I'm not always trying to optimize my own build just for myself. So yeah, I'd highly recommend it. You know, try and keep in mind what your team composition is looking like, and whether or not anything that you get from a dormant power drop might be more beneficial for a teammate than something else would be for you. That's just my advice. I find it to be pretty useful, and hey, it gets your team on your side, so, you know, why not? Now, I forget that there is no Crucible Knight down here, because I'm used to getting either Banished Knights or Trolls. I never get Crucible Knights, honestly, with my luck. Now, so what I'm going to go ahead and do up here is I'm eager to try and fight the top boss, so I'm going to jump up here and do the castle skip, which is where we mount up onto this ledge here, run around the side, and we're immediately up to the top boss. But as you can see, my team really hasn't followed me. They've fucked off to fight another small Crucible Knight. And I notice this, and I eventually just kind of bail on the idea of fighting Deathrite Bird, because I don't want to do that solo. I did notice earlier as well that there is a church not too far from Castle, and as this circle closes in on day 1, I'm quite eager to hit that. So I could just kind of bail here, but I figure I may as well help my teammate with this Crucible Knight here, and then I'll go ahead and grab that church. Prioritizing the balance between farming runes and going for churches, I find, is a bit of a hurdle to get over when you start playing Nightreign. I mean, I've got 100 hours, and I still feel like I don't do it great sometimes, to be honest with you. So I find that there is a balance to attain there. Now, there's another guy here, and I just say, you know what, it's not really worth it. I'm going to go and grab that flask instead. I'm not too sure whether they end up getting this flask as well. They might, but I'm not too sure. We might be able to see that by the end of the game. You can see the Raider's pretty far behind there, actually, so I'm not sure whether he ever ended up getting that flask. So I'll go ahead and grab this flask here, which will take us up to, I believe, 5 flasks at this point, which is pretty comfortable. I find the minimum number of flasks that you want to have going into the day 2 boss, or the night 2 boss rather, is like 5 flasks, because by defeating the night boss, you get a 6th flask, and you're going in with 6, and that's like okay. I think that's like the bare minimum that I'm comfortable with personally, but ideally you'd like more, if you can get them. Now, I do hit up the township here. Townships are pretty underrated, I feel like. So stopping by this merchant here, there are a couple things you want to try and look for. Smithing stones are good in case you don't have a great weapon, talismans, and also any weapon passives, which is what I'm scanning for here, if there's anything decent for a weapon passive. I don't really find anything that I end up liking, though, so I just pick up a smithing stone too, just in case there's something that I'd like to upgrade to a purple later on. And then I go ahead and move out of the township to grab this talisman over here. Now again, this is part of the advantage from playing as a team player. I find this Bullgoat's talisman here, which raises poise by 25%. I ping it, pick it up, and I'm going to drop that to one of my teammates a little bit later on. Now, this area is of course right next to the lake boss, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just kind of start poking him. There's not much else to do on this kind of final... Oh, big hit. On this final couple of minutes of the circle closing in. There's not much else productive that we can do, so getting some damage into this boss early, who we'll go and take on later, is not really a bad idea at all. I don't know how I marked him through the Totem Stella there, that was kind of odd. And he'll chase us for a little while, but eventually he will get too far from where he spawns and give up. Not too sure why I altered there, I don't think that was a great choice, but you know what, that's fine. Yeah, I think this method of poking a boss that's decently close to Final Circle is always really good. You know, it's just something small that you can do that'll kind of save some time later on when there's not much else time to be doing something, you know, efficient and more pertinent to the run. So we'll go ahead, just kind of poke him away, and then when things spawn in, my teammate lets me know, and we'll go ahead and spawn in. Now, these nobles are, you know, light work. I forget who this boss is, though, for some reason. I don't know why. It's completely escaping me who the boss is here. But rest assured, they're not going to be much trouble anyway, because we are at level 11, which is, I'd say, pretty, you know, like, it's above average in terms of where you want to be at the end of day 1. I've dropped that talisman for my teammate while we've got a little bit of downtime in the circle, so he's gone ahead and picked that up. Oh, no, wait, no, actually, not yet. But it is there. He'll pick it up eventually. And then we spawn in with the... Oh, it's the Bell-Bearing Hunter. That's right, this motherfucker. I hate Bell-Bearing Hunter with a passion. I'm going to take a second to just rant about this bastard. Look at that. Yeah, just tank that to the face. Why not? Tank an Art of War to the face. Why not? Infinite range. Doesn't get staggered at all. Mark breaks and it still doesn't stagger. Yeah, everyone has their issues with Bell-Bearing Hunter, myself included, but thankfully we're strong enough here that he's not too much of a struggle. He's also quite slow, which gives me good time to employ the shotgun strategy, or the playstyle, with Ironeye, which will let us pop another mark here in a moment. You'll see that little running attack there that I did. That is Ironeye's Sprint R2. And it actually does give you a little bit of a shrunken hurt box as you do it. You don't get iframes, but your hitbox does get quite low to the ground, which you can use to evade some attacks. Now, I don't really get any crazy dormant powers here, I just get sudden enemy death, so I'm like, it's fine, it's Ironeye, it's a little bit of damage when I'm killing out, you know, lesser mobs, it's fine, it's whatever. So I'll go ahead and take that, and I'm only going to go ahead and finish off the Tree Sentinel over here. Cool. I do have some thoughts that I wanted to express during this commentary as well about the Everjail meta and what I think it means for the game going forward, because it does feel like they maybe have power crept too fast. I'm not sure. Do I think that nerfing is necessarily the right play? I don't know, because at the moment it is 5% for every Everjail that you manage to clear, which is kind of, yeah, that's nuts. Especially when you can clear, you know, 4 Everjails pretty easily. I'm not sure exactly how many. Oh, we get the Pulley Greatbow here, which is quite nice. And attack up for when wielding 2 armaments, so that's always good, because I've always got something in my offhand. Now, the Everjail meta is, yeah, it's not too difficult to clear like 4 or so Everjails in a run, which is a 20% attack boost, which is pretty massive. For 4 Everjails, especially considering, you know, they don't have to be crazy hard Everjails, you know, they could just be like Beastly Brigade or Banished Knights or, you know, Grave Warden Duelist, and you still get that 5% per Everjail. So I don't know if they might want to dial it back just a bit. You know, I think something like 3.5% per Everjail would be a little bit more reasonable, maybe even 4%. But yeah, I think it does feel a little strong, and it does lead to the game feeling a little over-centralized at the moment. We're going to grab the flask from this church here, and then we're going to go up here and do the Everjail that we can see just next to it. Go ahead and pull that up. Now, something you will notice is that I am abusing the fuck out of Ironeye Double Dash during this game. And if you're playing Ironeye, God, always bring the +1 character skill relic, always. Oh, my teammate drops a Vikes Great War Spear for me here, which adds some projectile damage, which is really nice. Oh yes, these Banished Knights. I always find it very helpful too. You can see I kind of get run down by the guy with the shield here, so I don't really have too much of an option in fighting. I get clipped by this roll here, and I use a dash to, I think, get through one of these shield bashes here. You can see that knight in the back with the 2 swords. I like to call him the Blender Knight. He is always your #1 priority when you're fighting a group of Banished Knights, be that at a camp or at an Everjail. He's just the biggest bastard out of the lot, so I always find it helpful to kind of gun him down the first chance you get. Again, I didn't quite get a second to do that because I got gunned down by the one with the shield, but I find that to be quite helpful. Right, so yes, Ironeye Double Dash, abuse the fuck out of it. It's so strong, you get an insane amount of iframes, you can just pop it twice. It's way more mark consistency, which is your primary utility as Ironeye, so please, please, please always bring +1 character skill as Ironeye. It is the most important thing ever. Now, that it's day 2 and we've got the crater open and available to us, I want to hit up this Everjail over here since I've still got 1 Stone Sword key. However, you'll see in a moment my teammate will ping the field boss down by the crater. He's already started heading towards it. And this is why I say that like trying to communicate your vision is quite important in getting your teammates on the same wavelength. So he's going to ping the crater boss here in a moment. And I'm saying, okay, we do church, we do Everjail, and then we hit that boss. And I think he got what I was trying to say. Maybe he just didn't want to break away from his teammates because the raider was with me. But I tried as best I could to communicate my vision there to try and get him on the same wavelength. And thankfully he did understand. And because of that, we did get a lot of useful stuff. We got a flask. We got a bunch of extra runes from killing a tree spirit that's up here. And also another Everjail, which feels really good. And we were still able to squeeze in enough time to do Crater a bit later. So that's good. Again, with what limited communication tools you have, you just gotta try and do your best. Sometimes what you can do is not much, but, you know, you try and make do with what you can. So we've got an ulcerated tree spirit here. I really hate this boss, man. He's just really annoying. There's so much movement, like a lot of his attacks are telegraphed, but at the same time, it really is like, there's just so much going on here. Lots of big kind of hitboxes where there's no hard impact and it's just like a massive moving wall of flesh that barrels through you. I pop my ult here, which I will come to regret in a minute. But thankfully we're able to take him out pretty quick considering we're so strong at this point in the run. You'd see me switching out my bows pretty constantly just for a little bit of extra affinity damage from Knight of the Lord. Which I don't, again, I don't do too consistently at the moment, but I'm trying to get better with it and just train myself to do it a bit more often. We get a nice 20k from this guy, and then I don't really get anything good here, but taking damage on damage negation on taking damage is fine, so I drop that for one of my teammates. I'm not too sure whether they pick that one up. Anyway, we open the Everjail here, and we get Beastly Brigade, which I would have much rather saved my ult for in this scenario, but I've already popped it, so there's not much I can do. Here I'm using the R2 again. You can kind of see that tracking that you get on the spread shot. It does just kind of lock on to any other nearby enemies, which could be useful for clearing out smaller hordes. Raider does a good ult here to kind of get a bit of AoE damage and an attack buff in, so we can kind of blast through these guys while we've got a second. 10k off them, another 10k from that. Beautiful. Now we're going to be moving on to the Crater. Now something I wanted to bring up while we're heading to Crater was a bit of a discussion about which sifting earth people actually find best. Because it's a bit of a weird toss-up for me. I don't mind Crater. I think Crater is fine, aside from something else that you'll see in a moment about it. Some people really like Noclateo, which I understand because there is insane runes and loot to be had there, although it is quite a maze, and I've seen some people get quite frustrated with the fact that a lot of people like Noclateo and set the shifting earth to it with the collector's signboard. I don't see people talking about Mountaintop much, only when Caligo is in the picture. Obviously, we did just have the Everdark Caligo fight, in which the Mountaintop was tremendously useful for its anti-dragon and anti-frostbite properties. But I don't see many people complaining about the Rotted Woods that much. Really is just finding the blessing that's a little bit annoying, but aside from that, you've just got a bunch of field bosses that you can go and farm for a butt ton of runes. Now, the one thing I don't like about Crater is this asshole. Welcome, Falling Star Beast, and yep, there it goes, straight into the lava and burned to death. Excellent. The environmental hazards of this fight are really the one part that annoy me. Nothing else about Crater I find particularly offensive. Like, I think the navigation of the map is a little bit odd, but really that's about it. It's like not the biggest deal. But anyway, do give me your thoughts about which shifting earth you prefer, or any at all. Do you just prefer like a regular map so you can get an opportunity for more Everjails, more churches? Wilder is just sitting in that Magma at this point. I don't know what the plan was here, Chief, but he ends up going down. And I try to get him up as best I can. The dash misses, and then he comes back. I get knocked into the lava again. And then I roll backwards, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, straight into the lava, and I die. Which just felt awful. This is why I hate this boss, man. Oh yeah, and then Raider goes down to an AoE as well, and we actually get a TPK. But it's fine, because the boss is dead, so not really a huge issue. It really isn't a huge time loss. So, like, it's fine. I was laughing at this point about this, so that's okay. So we'll go ahead and grab my runes back and grab the loot from here. I don't normally run Crater too well. I find the layout to be like a little bit confusing. It is relatively linear, yes, but I do find it to be a little confusing. I just take another pulley bow here because, you know, why not? I do remember I used to have no clue. Oh, I also take this fire petal whip for less likely to be targeted. That's always nice as an Ironeye because you do have a lot less health than the other classes. You do get your iframes in your dashes, which is cool, but, you know, it is just kind of you do get one shot by a fair bit towards the very, very, very late game. Yeah, I remember I didn't know how to run Crater for the longest time. Even when watching, like, walkthroughs of it, I did still get kind of confused. I've kind of caught on now. Noclateo I know decently well, out of necessity, because, again, I do think it is quite crazy if you can optimize your Noclateo run, how much you can get out of it. And Mountain I know decently well as well, because I fought Everdark Caligo a bunch. There isn't really much pathing that you need for the Rotted Woods. You do just see the field bosses on your map, so you can just go hunt them down. And then the Blessing, it's just a fort that's marked on the map, so it's not too hard. But Crater's always stopped me a little bit. Now, another thing about Crater that I do find nice is that pretty much all of the enemies here are worth killing. Like you can see, we get 14k from these like big kind of brazen pothead guys, which I do think is worth it for the investment. Like, it's not Crucible Knight levels, but they are just worthwhile enough to kind of stop and kill them on the way. It's not a huge time investment, it's some decent runes, and there's a couple of them that you see scattered along this path down towards the, I don't know, the Forge, is that what you want to call it? Here's another thing about the dashes that I like. At high level, you can just kind of double dash through a crowd of enemies, and it will just straight up kill them most of the time. So again, just another bonus of having that +1 character skill in your build. Again, it is such a high priority in terms of relics for Ironeye, which I think is, while relics aren't the be-all and end-all of your strength in a run, I do find obviously they help a ton. So here we're going to head on through to this little passageway here, which takes us down to the Magma Worm. Now this is a little bit embarrassing. I didn't know during this run. I was like, oh man, how much do the fire chariots here give? Do they give a little bit more? So I actually kind of stopped to try and kill a few of them. I missed that jump. It's funny, I used to always hear people talk about how fire camps were by far the easiest, and so they're like pretty easy to clear, so go ahead and do them, it's worth your time. I didn't realize that you could do this, which is the criticals. So what I would do, as, any melee class, I think what I played back then most was Executor. I'd just sit there and get a backstab critical on them for like, 4 or 5 criticals straight, watching that animation play out. And I was like, damn, why do people say this is easy? It's like just it's so time consuming. I don't get it. I didn't know that you could actually vault up there and get a critical which one shot. So it's a little bit embarrassing to admit nowadays, but that's okay. Now I head on through here and I do get a little bit confused about where I'm supposed to go. Again, I don't run Crater very often, so I'm going to touch this Grace, level up, level 15. Before day 2 even ends is kind of crazy. Get murked by those stray fingers, and then get a little bit lost over here, which is great, man, great. But we'll go ahead and just kind of run past anyway once I find my way. I do kind of struggle to get down the cliffside a bit here because I'm trying not to jump off and kill myself. Oh yeah, by the way, these corpses I did mean to mention, they do have a good chance of dropping legendaries. By good, I mean like 5% it's estimated. So I do make an effort to try and check as many as I can on my way down. Now, as Final Circle is closing, we are lucky enough to have gotten here in time, but it's always good to kind of save Crater after a few errands on day 2 anyway, or any shifting Earth for that matter, since you always know where the circle is going to close in. It's not a matter of kind of guessing and hoping you've got enough time to hit this, this, and that before the final day 2 boss. It's always going to close up on this side, so we know we've got some time here anyway. Magma Worm I don't find to be too hard. I don't really know why this guy's here as like the defender of the Blessing of the Shifting Earth, but it's fine. And here's the Motherlode, baby. Ooh, we find an Erdtree bow right near the Forge, which is huge. This was a huge contributor to me feeling good about this run. Getting this Erdtree bow off of the rip like that, and then being able to immediately upgrade it into a legendary was massive. And you'll see me not use Knight of the Lord here from much here from now on, because I've just got like the best possible weapon that I could ask for, especially when fighting Everdark Tricephalos, who is weak to holy damage. So yeah, that was a huge pull for this part. Now I'm eyeing this church over here on the map because I would like to try and get that before the circle closes in. It is moving quite slow, so I do believe I've got time. Now, my teammate does kind of veer to the left here and drop in, but I kind of realized that too late, so I do just go for the safer play of running around here. Which I think, worth it. I don't want to end up losing a level and a bunch of runes to making a stupid mistake like that, so I'm cool with the fact that I went for the safer play here, quite honestly. They're fighting a Demi-Human Queen. I'm just going to leave that to them. They've got more than enough firepower to solo that, or duo that, rather. And I'll just swing through and pick up the loot on my way back. It's a nice 15,000 runes though, so that's okay. Just going to run past these guys here, go ahead and grab this church up here. I might have liked to check this shopkeeper if we had a little bit more time. Unfortunately, we don't, so I'm not really going to bother. I'm just going to grab that flask and get on out of there. So we are rocking with 7 at the moment before the final boss, which is huge because we'll be going in with 8 flasks. So at this point, I'm feeling hugely good about this run. Like, I'm feeling tremendous. I'm thinking that this is the one. I feel like me and my teammates have had some good coordination. Flask up. And yeah, and obviously the loot that we've got has really backed up our good chances of winning. So I'll go ahead. There's nothing really good here, so I just take stance breaking. I don't think that makes a huge difference on the Ironeye in particular, but I took it anyway. That's better than any of the weapons that were sitting there, so I don't really mind. Now it takes a second. Sometimes some corpses can spawn up on these little, I don't know what they are, arches that you see fallen here. And again, they do have good chances of dropping legendaries, so make sure you check those if you ever see them around. I do remember seeing once a video on Reddit of a guy finding a grafted blade greatsword just off of one of these corpses that you see lying around, which I thought was crazy. Like, I was shocked, so I started checking corpses pretty consistently after that. We've got some omens here for the starting minions, which means that we're going to be fighting Morgott as our boss for the night, which is fine. I feel pretty confident about Morgott. I don't find him too difficult. I think the more annoying day 2 bosses are the Nameless King and the Dragonkin Soldier are the ones that I seem to kind of have the most trouble with, or I find to just be troublesome in general. Now we do pop a Mark Break. He's going to go into phase 2, and I'm going to pop ult immediately to stop him from doing his Blood Flame Blade, which is pretty huge. And he just goes straight into his regular attacking. Stance broken again. We've absolutely murked this guy. Like, it is kind of insane how crazy we did him. 3rd stance break, and he's dead. And it's so over for him. There we go, just like that. Pick up an easy 50k runes. I take the flask boost here for 30%, which is really nice to have. And then we're going to go ahead and jump in straight into the goop. We're gooping it up to go ahead and fight Everdark Tricephalos. Level 15 with 130k going into the 3rd boss. So, like, needless to say, we're feeling really good about this at this point. I don't have anything that I want to upgrade because it's all epics. I don't feel bad about taking that smithing stone in retrospect because there was no guarantee that I was going to get a bunch of crazy loot on day 2. So, you know, honestly, it's fine. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab the Crimson Bubble Tear. I always find if this is in the shop, is good to drink straight away because it persists into the Everdark fight. So I'll grab that, grab some pickled turtlenecks, some warming stones, some boiled crab, and then I do believe I grabbed the Opaline Bubble Tear here as well, which I don't actually end up using, but hey, you got the cash, may as well spend it. If we were playing with a spellcaster, I would have bought some Starlight Shards and dropped those in case they wanted them. But, you know, the big strong boys go ahead and do their thing this run, so no need for that. We're going into the final boss with a great setup, and at this point I am thinking to myself, if I fumble the bag here, I don't think I'll ever play this game again. So, some tips that I noticed about this fight. What the Wilder is doing here, hey, don't do that, because that happens. I find if you run ahead so quickly against Everdark Tricephalos, you do just kind of get jumped by the 2 dogs in front, and that's not really what you want. I find that the best strategy with Tricephalos here is to actually try and spread out a little bit. Wait until you get aggro, like someone on the team gets aggroed by 2 dogs, and then you jump the 3rd with whoever's free. So that way you're not all dealing with one individually, you've got one dealing with 2, and they can just focus on playing defensively. And then you've got 2-on-1 on the last dog, which lets you get some really good damage in. I find this attack a bit hard to dodge. Just remember the actual impact comes a little after the sword hits the ground, so you just roll through that. Nothing too big, but it does do a lot of damage, so, you know, Opaline Bubble Tears can help there, if you're kind of scared about that move, and you're confident that you can avoid up until that point. This part of the fight isn't too difficult, you can just kind of jump him. I find this attack here pretty easy to deal with. It has got a really good telegraph to it, and especially with Ironeye, you just iframe through that with your dash, and nothing's a problem. You don't even have to roll, because the dash just gives so many iframes. I don't actually know if it's more or less than a standard dodge, but I wouldn't be surprised if it actually was. Oh, yeah, I get hit by this here, because I hadn't actually seen that attack before up until this point, so I was not going to hold it against myself for getting hit by that one, because I did not know how it worked. So you see here, me and the Wilder employ that strategy that I was talking about earlier. The Raider has 2 on him at the moment, so we just kind of jump this guy, get an ult off, second ult off. And as far as safe spots for this Gladius as well, the hind legs are typically your best bet. It's something else I should mention before we close out the fight here. So yeah, that's really all the tips that I have for this fight. Aside from that, I find it's difficult, but it is pretty straightforward. And there we go. With 1 dash to seal the deal, we go ahead and take down Everdark Gladius with a pretty insane run. Like, I think that's one of the better games of Nightreign that I've ever had. Of course, we aura farm in the final couple of seconds with this emote, because I do think it is the best emote for aura farming, don't at me. And yeah, that's the run. So I hope that I was able to provide some decent insight and a fun little bit of discussion with this commentary. If you guys enjoyed, please do, subscribe, leave a comment with your thoughts, and do go ahead and look forward to a couple more videos. I am working on a video at the moment from a stream that I did a while back with Black Myth Wukong, where I fought the Tiger Acolyte. So if you know why that was a whole deal. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully I'll catch you next time. Alright, see you around. Goodbye.